On everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going over my Draftkings and Fanduel Week 4 final look picks. Happy Saturday to everybody watching. We have a very fun Week 4 coming up. We have a lot of guys that are out already for tomorrow's game, so we know we have great values. We have some guys questionable still, but overall we do have a lot of news already. Should be a fun week. Let's go ahead and get into it. As always, if you enjoy the videos, appreciate it with the like button, subscribe if you have not already. Thank you for the support you guys have been showing on the videos. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at the DFS Process. I didn't have a prize picks video out for that Thursday night game, but I posted 4 props on Twitter, and all 4 of them ended up hitting, so that was nice. 10x if you guys use that. Let's go ahead and get into this week. If you want to join us, you can visit the website down below. Check out Twitter, like I mentioned. At the quarterback position this week, we have some weather concerns with some of these games, especially in the Northeast, as that hurricane kind of pushed its way up and got some of that rain approaching the Northeast this weekend. So Josh Allen against Baltimore, I still have him listed here just because there's not a handful of, you don't have Mahomes on the slate, and then there's just not a ton of other mid-range quarterback options that really look that strong. So I have him still here, although the weather in this game is going to be pretty poor. Going to see some winds, going to see probably some rain. So he's a little bit riskier, I'd say, because this game could get ugly, could be lower scoring than it's anticipated right now, but I still have him listed. But for that reason, I still like Hurts more. If this game in Philadelphia also does have a chance of rain, but it's a little bit less than the Baltimore, and the winds 15 to 20, I'd say, in this game. You might see a little bit more in that Baltimore game, but Hurts also, just with the rushing upside that he gives you, similar to Josh Allen, who also just gets a good matchup against Jacksonville. Mid-range is pretty weak on DraftKings. Even on FanDuel, there's not a ton of cheap quarterbacks that kind of price everybody up, or you have everybody priced down. So Aaron Rodgers against the Patriots, he's at home. He finally looked good and sharp early on last week. They ended up still holding on. It was a low-scoring game against Tampa's defense, and it's going up against the Patriots now. They are missing their quarterback in this one, so there's a chance this game can also get out of hand for the first time for the Packers this year. But I still like Rodgers. I have a good guy to pair him with, and Romeo Dobbs will get to him. He's only $6,300. The mid-range is very poor, so definitely one of the better options. You have Wilson priced $400 more than Rodgers. Probably just get to Rodgers, I'd say. And then Jared Goff against Seattle. If you look at the Vegas totals, the Lions totals is rising, especially with some of the totals in the Northeast games coming down a little bit. Goff looks good against Seattle, even though he's missing his number 1 weapon as well as his number 1 running back. It's just also going to be more condensed offense, so it's pretty easy to stack off with like Chark or stack him with Hawkinson. Obviously, you're going to play Jamal Williams in cash. The value plays this week, there are a few value quarterbacks below 6K, below I think on FanDuel, these guys are also in the low 7K. Brissett's probably in the 6Ks. But Marcus Mariota against Cleveland, he also is a quarterback that will run a little bit. And then we got Brissett against Atlanta. He has a higher total. He has some cheap guys to pair him with. Mariota does have guys you can pair with as well, but I like Brissett's a little bit more with Njoku, who's cheap, and with Amari Cooper, who's pretty cheap. So I still like Brissett, although I think people are going to go Mariota instead, which, I don't mind that. But like Mariota, I was on him last week. I liked him. He did play well. He could have played a lot better. He had a fumble and an interception and didn't do much in the second half. But those are the 2 value quarterbacks I'd have my eye on. At the running back plays, top end, once again, you have a bunch of guys there. Some of them have tougher matchups than others. Jonathan Taylor's gotten off to a slow start this year after he was taken either first or second in almost every fantasy draft this summer. He gets a good matchup against Tennessee. They are bottom 5 in rushing yardage allowed so far this year. Saquon Barkley also gets a good matchup against Chicago. They are ranked 30th in rushing yards per game, so you get 2 good matchups between Taylor and Barkley. And then a guy that could get overlooked a bit is Austin Eckler, just because he's gotten off to a quiet start. He also gets a great matchup against Houston. These 3 top guys have tremendous matchups. They probably have 3 of the best matchups for running backs this week. And Eckler, he's gotten a ton of catches this year, but he hasn't gotten any touchdowns, and he only rushed for 80 yards in 3 games. They got to get him more involved. We know Keenan Allen has already been ruled out for this game once again, so Eckler's probably due for a big game. And against Houston, we've seen a lot of running backs crush them over the years, so he's a guy that I've highlighted. The mid-range, we have Najee Harris, who's cheap on both sites, on DraftKings and FanDuel. It could be a pretty good week to go with 3 running backs if you wanted to, because you're probably going to play Jamal Williams against Seattle, and I love him. He was on the first look thumbnail, and Now he's very tough to pass up, not only with Swift out, but with St. Brown out, just more usage will probably go to Jamal Williams and more touches. And the matchup is awesome against Seattle. They're at home. The Lions, they had 3 very close games so far this year. They could have easily been 2-1 or 3-0 if some of the things fell their way. But they're 1-2. They're probably going to get to 2-2. I like them to win this game against Seattle. I think Williams will be a big part of that. And then the value pick is definitely Khalil Herbert against the Giants. He gets a solid matchup there. It's almost his time, I'd say, to kind of take over that running backfield just with Montgomery's inconsistent play. And if he continues to be injured, Herbert, this is his time to kind of show what he's got and earn more playing time. So you'd expect him to go out and ball out against the Giants, similar to what he did last week, where everybody was on Montgomery. A lot of people were on Montgomery, and Herbert, with the injury to Montgomery, was able to benefit and see him doing the same thing this week. Wide receiver plays, once again, the top end, it's fine, but there's also a very strong mid-range. The top end is missing some of the guys, like we don't have the wide receivers that played in the Miami game, obviously. We don't have like Jamar Chase. We don't have Hill or Waddle on this slate. So it's a little bit condensed. And Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams are like your 2 top 5 wide receivers, I'd say, on this slate. And then he kind of falls off a bit. But with the weather in Baltimore, I don't think I need to get all the way up to there if I don't want to or don't feel comfortable with that. So that's why I plugged in Michael Pittman here, who's going to get a lot of targets against Tennessee. And then I put in Mike Williams as well, just because there's no Keenan Allen. He's going to benefit with a lot of touches and a lot of targets as well against Houston especially. The mid-range is also pretty strong on both sides. We have Amari Cooper, who I really like, who's gotten 21 targets last couple of games. Gets a great matchup against Atlanta's terrible pass defense. CeeDee Lamb is also very affordable on both sites. He's 68 on FanDuel, 67 on Draftkings. And Washington's defense has given up big yardage. Last week, they gave up a monster game, as we know, to Devontae Smith. The week before that, and in week number 1, they gave up a ton of yardage to, like, Amara St. Brown had a big week against them. And that defense has really just not been able to stop anybody. So I think CeeDee Lamb is starting to finally emerge a bit the last few weeks. He's gotten 75 and 87 yards. Last week had a touchdown against the Giants, and this is definitely the best matchup he's had. And it's not like he's had terrible numbers with Cooper Rush there. Even last year when Rush had to start a few games, he had some good chemistry there. It's just like they're probably going to score less points, so the touchdown opportunities is lower. But it is a great matchup at home. I expect them to still put up points, and CeeDee Lamb to have a big week, possibly get over 100 yards this one. And then Courtland Sutton, another guy that's also very cheap on both sides, 64 on DraftKings, 68 only on FanDuel for a guy that's a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL. He's had over 200 yards receiving the last 2 games combined. Just hasn't been able to get into the end zone. And that could change as long as Wilson starts to play better. He's been ugly, to say the least, so far. He's been able to get it done in clutch time last week against the 49ers, getting that late touchdown drive. But I feel like Courtland Sutton is due for a touchdown or 2. He's still going to get the targets. He's gotten 21 targets the last 2 weeks. He's gotten 28 in the 3 weeks so far this year. He's had good chemistry with Wilson. There's nothing wrong about that. It's just a matter of moving down the field and scoring touchdowns and getting these receivers the ball early. Some value picks. We have Drake London, who's looked like one of the best rookie wide receivers in football. He's cheap on DraftKings. He's pretty cheap on FanDuel as well. This is like if you're stacking this game, he would be a perfect guy to bring it back from the Atlanta side if everybody's going with like Pitts, especially with Patterson being questionable. And then DJ Chark, he's like 51, I think, on DraftKings, 57 on FanDuel. The price tag on him for being the number 1 wide receiver is still cheap. We know Dan Campbell in that offense, they have been moving the ball pretty well the first 3 weeks, and scoring points isn't a problem for them. It's just stopping the other team from scoring points. And if Chark is going to benefit by getting more opportunities and targets without St. Brown, I'll definitely be interested. He's currently listed as questionable, but Dan Campbell said he's going to play. And then we got a couple of values at the bottom that I love. Romeo Doubs, he's going to be in for more snaps, I'd say, again this week, just with Sammy Watkins being placed on injured reserve. Watson is back, but Doubs has earned more playing time. Watson hasn't done much the first 2 weeks that he's played. He missed last week. He just has like 7 targets, I believe. And Dobbs last week, he really emerged. He had a nice touchdown grab, 8 catches, 73 yards, touchdown. He played, his snap count almost doubled from the previous week. Missing Watkins, he took his role. And then Matt Collins, he's once again played him last week. He played extremely well. He had more fantasy points combined than like 5 of the top 15 flex options, I'd say, for the week. And this week, he gets a much tougher matchup against Denver, but the price tag is still reasonable. If people are going with him instead of Dobbs, I'd probably just go with Dobbs, but I don't mind going to Matt Collins once again, just to sprinkle him in a little bit. Without Renfro, there's going to be Hollins and Devontae Adams being the main guys. Waller will mix in a bit. The matchup is definitely tougher this week, but at least they're at home, and we'll see what happens. He's not a must-play by any means, but he's still a reasonable value pick. Some tight end plays this week. If you're paying up, it's Mark Andrews against Buffalo. Nobody's even close to him in price tag this week across the sites because there's no Travis Kelce on this slate. Mid-range, got Dallas Goedert against Jacksonville. He's looked good. He gets opportunities in red zone situations. He's just a solid option. That's a guy that's going to get you, probably double-digit points most weeks, just with the catches and getting opportunities to get into the end zone. Some value picks I like are TJ Hawkinson, who is cheap on both sites, especially on FanDuel. He's only 54 there. Also, if you're not able to get to like Chark, you can pair Goff or just play Hawkinson by himself. He should benefit and possibly could become the most targeted guy without St. Brown this week. And then I like David Njoku as well, especially if you're playing Brissett. If not, still you can play him as a one-off tight end, but the matchup is awesome. Against Atlanta, they gave up one of the most fantasy points. They're top 5 in fantasy points given up to tight ends this year. And Njoku had a great week last week. It's Cooper and Njoku. I think they'll kind of separate in themselves as the season goes on in terms of the guys that are going to be most heavily targeted. Defensive plays, it's a pretty strong defensive slate this week. You got pay-ups, you got a couple of mid-range and values, but the pay-ups options are very strong. You got the Packers against Brian Hoyer. We have the Steelers against Zach Wilson making his return. Mid-range, got the Cowboys and that awesome pass rush against Washington's offensive line that is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, in the NFL, and gave up 9 sacks to the Eagles last week and even the week before. Wentz barely had time to throw the ball for much of the game against Detroit, and so that Cowboys pass rush must be getting ready to feast off of Wentz this week. The Bills put them there just because they're cheap, and this game could be a lot lower scoring than initially anticipated with the weather there. Value picks, the Bears against the Giants. Giants missing some wide receivers again. If you're playing Barkley, wouldn't play that defense, but don't mind going with the Bears defense. Could be a low-scoring game. And then got the Broncos against the Raiders. Raiders did not see an 0-3 start for them coming. They were in a few of these games, like Arizona game, they definitely gave away. But we'll see. They're going up against the Broncos. Good news is that they're at home. The Broncos defense is strong. Derek Carr has the tendency to turn the ball over and throw some picks, as he's shown this year. So they're listed there as well. But that's about it for me. That's what I got for this week. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you have other guys that you are interested in. Definitely stay tuned for updates. We're still waiting on a lot of news from Arizona with 3 wide receivers there questionable. So that will change up the slate a bit. But I really do like this week. Hopefully we crush it. Hope you guys crush it as well. Thank you for watching. Best of luck, and I will see you all next time.